What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today it is time for a Marvel Champions review. I know I have not dropped my review of Galaxy's Most Wanted yet. There are a whole bunch of boring reasons why I haven't, I'm sorry. But over the past few days, I have been playing a whole bunch of Star-Lord. I'm going to be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen. I am really liking Star-Lord. Not quite gotten into my pantheon along with characters like Doctor Strange and Spider-Woman. That should not be seen as any kind of insult. Doctor Strange and Spider-Woman are number one and number two. But I'll tell you something for nothing. I am really enjoying playing Star-Lord here. Although it is a very easy character to play very badly. And actually, before we get going, shout out to Hall of Heroes over on, well, just the website Hall of Heroes. We haven't got the images on Card Game DB yet, so some of the images here are from Hall of Heroes. They are awesome. If you like Marvel Champions, you really should be checking them out. So, if we start off with Peter Quill, we've got a recovery of 3, which is fine, hand size of 6, which is standard, hit points of 10, which is kind of lower than I like. Apparently, it's about average, but it never felt like a huge problem like it has with some other characters. During setup, you search your deck and discard pile for a copy of the Element Gun upgrade. That is wonderful. We'll get there in a minute. And you have an action that lets you choose a card in your hand and swap that card with the top card of your deck. Whenever I'm in alter ego mode, if I can, I generally do this. There's usually a card in your hand you're not using, but then again, a lot of the time, cards you're not using end up being just fodder to pay for other cards. So it's a cool skill, but I've not found it to be a vital skill like I have with some others. Star-Lord's stats are actually kind of bad. 2 thwart, 2 attack, 1 defense, 2/2/2 is average, so defense is bad and none of them are particularly good. But with the other cards in the deck, I found that the thwart of 2 and attack of 2 have felt fine, and although the defense isn't great, I'm not a player who defends all that much anyway. This is not a character that made me want to do it, but although the stats aren't great, I never felt like they were really disadvantaging me. Now, it does give each ally you control the Guardian trait, not relevant for Star-Lord, but relevant for some of the other cards we're going to see, and it's got a beautiful skill. What could go wrong? When you play a card from your hand, you can deal yourself a face-down encounter card and reduce the cost by 3. Now, this is not always worth it. In my first few games, I did this way too much. It came back to bite me, but it's not an every turn skill. At least I don't think it is. But on some turns, this can set up for ridiculous combos, and especially at the end game, it is rare that you'll have a game with Star-Lord where this isn't what tips you over the edge to win. Now, we need to start off with Element Gun, because this is one of my favourite things about the deck. There are 2 copies of Element Gun, and it is phenomenal. It is a free cost upgrade. Now, it is restricted, but you can exhaust Element Gun and spend 1 resource of any type to deal 3 damage to an enemy with piercing. Now remember, you start off with Element Gun because of your setup skill, and to be blunt, every game, as soon as I go to, well, pretty much, to be honest, on turn 1, I'll go to hero mode, just so that I can play the Element Gun for free. And I'll take an encounter card because most of the time, we all know there's ones like Ronan where it's not true, but most of the time, taking an extra encounter card on turn 1 you can deal with. And honestly, if you can't deal with extra encounter cards, you might struggle playing as Star-Lord. So, turn 1, my standard thing is go to hero mode, play Element Gun for free, and it's sitting there. And whenever I see an enemy with tough, oh, let's get rid of that. And it means that any card you don't want in your hand turns into a 0-cost deal free damage with piercing. It's ridiculous. And there are 2 copies in your deck, so you will in a lot of games get 2 of them out, and when you got 2 Element Guns out, it is a thing of absolute beauty. Now, your signature ally here is Nova Prime, and Nova Prime at first looks annoying, because it's a 5-cost free health ally, and my rule has always been I want cost and health to be the same. However, 2 thwart with 1 consequential damage is good, 3 thwart with 1 consequential damage is great, and after you play Nova Prime from your hand, you defeat a non-elite minion, and actually, yeah, even with the free health, Nova Prime, I have ended up playing it a lot more. A lot of the time, I find that 5-cost allies just don't hit the table for me. I don't end up with the resources to spare. Nova Prime, I often feel like it is absolutely worth it. Now, there are 3 copies in the deck of Daring Escape, which lets you deal yourself 1 face-down encounter card, ready your hero, and draw a card. Now, this is a bit of a trap card, because you will get hands that have got multiple Daring Escape in. And essentially you play it, draw a card, ready yourself, and oh, there's an encounter card, I'll get to it later. In my first game, I ended up having a villain turn where the villain had 6 encounter cards, or dealt 6 encounter cards. There are very few game states that can survive 6 encounter cards. It was not pretty. But as a last turn option, it's phenomenal. And there are going to be some turns where it is absolutely worth it. And then there are some cards we're going to see in a moment that get better when you've got more encounter cards. So it's not a card you can always just play willy-nilly. Extra encounter cards can often lose you the game. And that is one of the things I really found playing a lot of Star-Lord. There were a lot of games where I would go, I can have 1 more encounter card. And then I'd get to the villain phase and find out, no, I could not have 1 more encounter card. Now, Gutsy Move is a card that comes in with 2 copies, a 2-cost event, a hero action thwart, remove 2 threat from a scheme, and 2 additional threat from a scheme for each face-down encounter card in front of you. So again, this is a kind of card that can save you the game. If there's like 6 threat on the scheme, and you can have 2 encounter cards in front of you, you can go from 6 scheme down to 0, and then you don't have to thwart, you can attack and win things of that nature. And sure, you're taking a couple of extra encounter cards and that can hurt, but it could be absolutely worth it. The counterpart to this is Sliding Shot, a 3-cost event. Incidentally, this is a prime candidate for what could go wrong. You can only play it if you control an element gun, but you should control an element gun unless things are going wrong. And as a hero action attack, you deal 5 damage to an enemy, but 2 additional damage to that enemy for each face-down encounter card in front of you. Now, bearing in mind, if you play it with what could go wrong, that is a minimum 7 damage, and this, for me, is often a game ender. This is the kind of card where you can, I think the last game I played 1 last little game against Rhino, just as a last little game, and I think I did 25 damage in 1 turn to end it. And Sliding Shot finished me off with, I think it was like 11 damage. Because there were 3 encounter cards in front of me. So I did 11 damage. It can get really silly really quickly. And bearing in mind, when I did that 11 damage, I didn't pay for Sliding Shot. Now, Bad Boy only comes as a one-off, but Bad Boy is good. It is a 3-cost support. Again, it's a candidate for what could go wrong. When you would take any amount of damage from the villain's attack, you discard this, prevent all damage, change to alter ego form, and draw 2 cards. We all have those turns where the villain's got like +3 or +4 attack, but only for 1 attack. It's an upgrade which is going to go away nice, or an attachment, which is going to fall off when they attack. So I love setting up those turns and going, right, I've got to take a big attack. Bad Boy is going to stop all of that, and I get to go to Alter Ego mode and draw 2 cards. That sounds good to me. And of course, Alter Ego mode means I can have all the fun of Alter Ego mode, but still finish in Hero mode if I want to. Jet Boots is a one-off, but it's another card I'm kind of fond of. 2-cost upgrade with Aerial, as in it gives you Aerial. But when Star-Lord would take any amount of damage, you exhaust Jet Boots and prevent 1 of that damage for each face-down encounter card in front of you. So again, if you've got 2 or 3 encounter cards, but you've got Jet Boots on the field, and it's an upgrade, it'll stay there, you can essentially, yeah, fine, I'm taking 3 encounter cards, but I'm actually not taking any damage from the attack, so I'm mitigating it a little bit as well. There's also 1 copy of Leader of the Guardians, gives each Guardian character you control an extra thwart, can be very helpful. Bearing in mind that when you're in hero mode, each of your allies will be a Guardian, which is incredibly important. And then 1 copy of Star-Lord's helmet. While you're in hero form, you get +1 hand size for each face down encounter card in front of you to a maximum of +3. So again, if you've got these cards on the field like Star-Lord's helmet, like Jet Boots, you might have 3 encounter cards in front of you, and that is terrifying and it can lose you the game. But you're probably going to be able to prevent an attack and draw an extra 3 cards, and that can actually make it worth taking them. Now, out of the box, Star-Lord is a leadership character, and there are some cool cards that we see here as well. We've got Adam Warlock, and Adam Warlock's a weird one, right? Because what you do is it's free cost, free health, 1 thwart or attack taking a damage, not good. But after Adam Warlock attacks or thwarts, you discard 1 card at random from your hand, and if it's got a physical energy, or resource, you remove 3 threat from a scheme. Energy resource heals 3 damage. Science resource does 3 damage to an enemy, and an any type resource lets you choose. But it's often not going to be random. Remember, you refill your hand at the end of your turn. There's no reason a lot of the time to keep cards in your hand, so just go down to 1 card in hand, and then attack with Adam Warlock, and you'll know what you're doing. And then it turns into, for instance, 4 attack taking 1 damage. That's a little bit different. Beta Ray Bill is a 5 cost 4 health ally. Again, it's got less health than cost, but it's got 3 attack taking 1 damage. And when you defeat a minion, you remove 2 threat from the main scheme. I don't like Beta Ray Bill as much as I like Nova Prime, but it hit the table a bunch. Now, Yondu is one of those characters that at first glance looks terrible. 4 cost, 2 health. 2 thwart taking the damage is fine, 1 attack. You don't take consequential damage when you attack with Yondu. And that is huge! Plus, you've got range, so you ignore retaliate. Now, one of the other cards we find just out of the box in this particular deck is 3 copies of Laser Blaster. You attach it to a Guardian ally, but again, all of your allies will have Guardian. And you get +1 attack and overkill. So now you've got 2 attack with ranged and overkill, and you can attack every turn with Yondu, and it never goes away. Yeah, Yondu is one you want to get on the field quickly. Plus, against like Ultron, where you've just got lots of 1 health drones coming out, having Yondu there to take out 1 drone every turn really is kind of brilliant. Now, Air Supremacy is a 2 cost event that lets you choose up to X enemies, where X is the number of aerial characters you control, and deal 3 damage to each chosen enemy. And this is fine, but like if we look at the deck out the box, you've got Adam Warlock, who is aerial, and then you can give yourself aerial, but only if you give yourself Jet Boots, and it's only a 1 of in your deck. And then you've got Nova Prime, and that's kind of it. So if you build your deck to take advantage of aerial cards, this is a phenomenal card. But when you're playing Star-Lord out of the deck, this is generally discard fodder. Blaze of Glory, however, you get 3 copies of this, maximum once per round, but each Guardian character, bearing in mind all your allies will be Guardians, get +2 thwart and +2 attack this phase. Now, they've got to take a damage at the end of the phase. Be careful with Yondu, 2 health, but this gets a little bit nuts. Like Beta Ray Bill and Nova Prime turn into 5 attack characters. Star-Lord turns into a 4 attack character. This can lead to, again, some just ridiculous turns, especially when you combine it with Get Ready. Get Ready is a 0 cost card that readies an ally. But with Blaze of Glory, you can have like Beta Ray Bill attacking for 5 and then Get Ready and attack for another 5. And I've done that in a few games, and you can just rip through the villain. Blaze of Glory and Get Ready as a combo is a little bit nuts. There's also 3 copies of Target Practice, which is a support, so you can basically play it down now and wait for later. It doesn't cost anything. And when an ally with a weapon, Yondu, makes an attack, you discard it, and the ally gets +2 attack. Target Practice and Yondu and Laser Blaster has been a combo which has taken me through many a game. We've got a couple copies of the Power of Leadership, which just is 2 resources when paying for a leadership card. Cool, I suppose. And then if we get into the basic cards, there's Cosmo. And Cosmo is a 2-cost, 2 health ally, 1 thwart taking the damage, 1 attack taking the damage, meh. But Cosmo, when it attacks or thwarts, you name a card type, discard the top card of your deck, and if it is of the name type, Cosmo doesn't take the damage. So it's kind of like another Yondu. However, remember, your alter ego skill lets you swap a card in your hand with the top card of your deck. So if you have been in alter ego mode at any point during this turn, you should know what's the top card of your deck, and you should be able to use Cosmo every turn without taking the damage. I love me some Cosmo. CITT is a 2-cost support. You can exhaust it and spend 2 resources to ready a Guardian character, which can be huge again. If you've got one of those turns where Beta Ray Bill is attacking for 5, or Nova is, I suppose, Nova Prime, this is just awesome. Nowhere is a 2-cost support that lets you increase your ally limit by 1, and after a player plays a Guardian ally, you exhaust Nowhere to draw a card. It's fine. A lot of your allies are kind of expensive, so you rarely, or at least I find I wasn't hitting the limit very often, but especially if you get Yondu and Cosmo out, that can get you there, because they're generally not going away. And then there are 3 copies of Pulse Grenade, 2-cost upgrade. You discard it, choose an enemy, discard the top 2 cards of the encounter deck, dealing 1 damage to the chosen enemy for each boost icon discarded this way. I'm not loving this card because it's not something you can rely on per se, but having said that, I like leaving this in play so that when a minion or something comes out that I really want to deal with, if I can have like 3 pulse grenades just sitting there, it means if a really bad minion comes out, I can get rid of it straight away. And finally, we should take a look at the Nemesis minion, which in this case is Mr. Knife. Mr. Knife is 2 scheme, 2 attack, 6 health with retaliate 1, but we've seen you can easily deal 7 damage or more in a turn here, so you'll take like 1 damage taking him out, it's not the end of the world. And the first treachery the engaged player reveals each villain phase gains Surge. Sure, taking an encounter card, an extra one, isn't particularly great, but I never found Mr. Knife particularly intimidating most of the time. You know, if you've got 2 element gun on the field, you can just take him out. If you got Yondu with ranged, there are times you can just deal 6 damage with Yondu, that's kind of cool, and even just ignore the retaliate. Or you can just play, that card I really like whose name escapes me, Sliding Shot, that if you play it for free will just take him out. So I found most of the time when Mr. Knife hit the field, he went away straight away. Now, Budding Crime Syndicate is kind of annoying. It's got Hinder 2, so it's 2 threat, and then another 2 threat, and it gives you an extra encounter card. Obviously, it's what Star-Lord's deck does, but again, it was fairly easy to get rid of. And then there were 3 copies of Spartoy Cunning. When revealed, discard 1 card at random from your hand, take a damage, and place 1 threat on the main scheme. Not only is this a lot of annoying stuff at once, but we all have those turns where 1 damage will lose us, or 1 threat will lose us, and sometimes actually this can lose you the game. Once your minion set comes out into the deck, you need to really remember that these 3 cards are in there, because they can very easily lose you the game. Oh, and I suppose we should mention Banishment, the obligation. You can either exhaust Peter Quill to remove it from the game, or you discard an element gun, and if you don't have one, place 3 threat on the main scheme to discard the obligation. But I'd rather have the element gun, and I mean, would you rather exhaust yourself or take 3 threat? It's another one of these, and this is generally, for me, all the obligations. It comes out, I get exhausted, it's annoying. There are encounter cards that will exhaust you. Get over it. It's not a big deal. Overall, I'm going to go ahead and give Star-Lord 4 Wassies. I don't think you are quite reaching up the heights with Star-Lord as some of my favourite characters in the game, but I had an absolute blast playing Star-Lord, and it is a really fun character because if you overreach and take too many encounter cards, you will have the most brutal villain phases you've ever seen. But there were games where, like I say, I would just deal 25 damage in one turn and just absolutely annihilate Rhino. You can set up some and I hope I've pointed out enough of them in this video. You can pull off some crazy combos with this particular deck. It is fun. But I want to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section, would ya? Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk Marvel Champions and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wasi Plays.